What voters here in New Hampshire confirmed tonight is nothing short of the beginning of a political revolution.
And we've learned it's not whether you get knocked down that matters, it's whether you get back up.
You know, we learned a lot about ground games in 1 week, I have to tell you that. You made it happen. You made it happen. You made it happen.
Voters in New Hampshire feeling the burn and yearning to make America great again. Donald Trump and Senator Bernie Sanders, the big winners in Tuesday's primary. Also on the GOP side, John Kasich punching his ticket to the next round. Joining me now to share their thoughts on this primary race as it continues into South Carolina, Larry Levy, Executive Dean of the National Center for Suburban Studies at Hofstra University and a former political columnist for Newsday. And of course, Chris Hahn, host of the Chris Hahn Show on 103.9 LI News Radio and former aide to Senator Charles Schumer. All right, so let's start on the Democratic side because I started on the Republican side last time. So New Hampshire, Hillary Clinton won in 2008. Bill Clinton won New Hampshire. He campaigned for, and she got trounced. What does that mean right now?
Look, it means that people who come up with big ideas win campaigns. Voters don't go after pragmatism. Hillary is a pragmatist. She wants to solve government's problems. Bernie's throwing out big ideas. I'm not quite sure he knows how he's going to get to those ideas' full conclusions.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Larry. Can Bernie pivot now? South Carolina and Nevada are vastly different than New Hampshire. Can he take his message there?
South Carolina and Nevada are not New Hampshire. In fact, the problem for Sanders, if you can say a guy who had such a big win the other night has a problem, is that New Hampshire doesn't resemble any other place in the country that really matters in Democratic politics. So the question is whether his message is going to apply to relatively conservative Southern Democrats, to black voters who have been loyal to the Clintons. This is a really big question.
Well, he had breakfast with Reverend Al Sharpton in Harlem today. He's trying to woo them.
I'm done underestimating him. I mean, I've been underestimating him for a couple of months now. I was wrong.
Are we going to? Go ahead.
I did not think that he would win that big last night. I was on another network yesterday saying, I don't think he's going to get the same margin his polls was. He got the margin his polls said.
Yeah.
The guy's got something going on. There's a bit of a movement. It's not just him. The similarities between Trump and Sanders are very clear. There's a movement going on in politics right now where people are tired of the political establishment. They both represent people who are not part of the political establishment. I think that's their success right now. Whether that carries on in South Carolina, I don't know, but I'm not going to underestimate him anymore.
Okay. The places, and I shouldn't either, and I'm a little bit of a captive of conventional wisdom. I've been doing this for 40 years, so you can't help but wondering, whether something so different can go on. But Sanders has to show that he can win among moderate swing suburban voters, and we haven't heard from them yet.
Yeah, right, but Democratic primary voters are not moderate swing suburban
Let's get to the GOP side, too, because we want to talk about them as well.
Anywhere.
In the South, they're moderates.
GOP, Trump, commanding win in New Hampshire.
Yep.
John Kasich, a big surprise, got some momentum.
Yep.
This is what he said earlier today. Let me have you listen to that and get your thoughts on the other side.
I'm starting to really think we're onto something. I'm starting to really think that the positive nature of a campaign can be very effective.
All right, Donald Trump's, he's been number one in the polls in South Carolina. Is this positive nature of a campaign, is that going to work against Donald Trump, who will go negative in
I would really like to see a substantive policy debate in the fall, right? And John Kasich would bring a substantive policy debate. Donald Trump, Ted Cruz will not. Whether or not that positive attitude works, it worked for Reagan. I don't know if it's going to work this year. I think there's a lot of anger on the Republican side. I don't know what they're angry about. The economy's doing well. Gas prices are low. I think they're angry because they don't control the White House. This is the one guy who can actually give them back the White House if he gets the nomination.
Suburban voters, they make up, that's Long Island. Suburban voters are Long Island.
Suburban voters are 55%.
Who do they go for on the Republican side?
Well, suburban voters tend to go, there are a lot of liberals and conservatives in the suburbs, the American suburbs, but there are more moderates. And these places that decide national elections, the 8 or 10 swing states and the suburbs in them, tend to go for moderates. This business of anger is interesting. Clearly there's anger out there. Chris is absolutely on the money there. But anger can blow itself out.
Yeah.
And in the end, it may be that voters will have their say, get their fill, and decide that they want to go for the policy debate that Chris alluded to.
Right.
And then they go to people like Kasich, and then they go to people like Clinton.
Let me ask you this, and real quickly, New Hampshire didn't quite do what it was supposed to do. Didn't whittle it down too much. We're still in a big, strong race for second place right now. Chris Christie dropped out. Carly Fiorina dropped out today.
And Carson's all but out.
Carson's all but out. I mean, he had
sticking around to
2%
stick
in
at the Cruz a little
New
bit.
Hampshire. Do they all make it the field right now? Does Marco Rubio, Jeb Bush, and Ted Cruz all make it to Super Tuesday?
They all have the money to do so.
Yeah.
And you know, in this new age of internet social media campaigns, you don't even need that much money to stay around. You just have to have an ability to withstand the cringe factor when nobody else wants you on the stage.
Okay.
I think they stick around. I think what Chris Christie did to Marco Rubio, though, really helps Jeb Bush.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe he gets a second life now. I think Marco Rubio was all but the establishment choice until Saturday night. It's a shame that Chris Christie didn't benefit from it.
The story in South Carolina is the two lines. One is whether Hillary Clinton can bounce back, so to speak, and whether Jeb Bush can continue the family tradition of doing well in what they always considered their firework.
All right, we got two big races coming up, South Carolina and Nevada. We'll have you back and get your thoughts after that race.
Can't wait.
It will continue. All right. Larry Levy, Chris Hahn, as always, thanks for coming in. News 12 and your hyperlocal forecast will be coming right up.